So, hello everyone. This is Joan Kaylor coming to you from Planet Earth and the Mind, Body, and Spirit Cafe. I am blessed to have a fantastic, interesting, fascinating guest, my Michael DeMolina. Hi, Mike. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Joan. It's great to be here.
We are going to be talking about what emotional freedom techniques are and the new program that the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology has for certifying therapists, psychologists, and healers. We are so excited about this program. Now, just to give you a little bit of background, because Dr. DeMolina, Michael, is so interesting. Okay, he is a certified NLP trainer from the Society of NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming. Mm-hmm. He is a diplomat in comprehensive energy psychology from the Association of Comprehensive Energy Psychology. He is clinical director of ACEP's EFT certification program. And last but not least, he is the creator of the archetypal energy psychology. Mm-hmm. So I always tease Michael because I say, you know everything and everyone. Is so amazing in all of his skills and talents and as a teacher.
Thank you.
So this is truly a blessing for the world. And for all you therapists out there, from psychologists to counselors to social workers to marriage and family therapists, this is what you need to know about emotional freedom techniques. Okay, after that wild introduction, Michael, tell the world about emotional freedom techniques. What are emotional freedom techniques?
After that build-up, hopefully I have something interesting to say. Well, first of all, let's start off with the history. Emotional freedom techniques, EFT, was created around the mid-90s by Gary Craig, a Stanford-trained engineer, and a student of the helping field. He had taken neurolinguistic programming once upon a time. He'd studied with Roger Callahan and thought field therapy and a number of other different techniques. And he created his own genius intervention set, EFT. Now, just for those who maybe have never heard about EFT, we'll just start with some basics. That EFT is the use of tapping on acupressure points. And so I could just demonstrate some of the acupressure points that one might use during EFT, and there's more. And one might ask, what is the tapping all about? Like, what's that doing? Well, in China, for thousands and thousands of years, the Chinese medicine has evolved by developing an understanding of the energy or energetic, or what we could say in modern times, the electrical pathways through the body. The pathways are given the name meridians. So each one of these tapping points is actually the beginning point or the end point of a specific meridian or energy pathway in the body that has a direct correspondence with the internal organs, and over time has been understood to have a direct correspondence with certain emotional states. So EFT is the use of tapping acupressure points combined with good old Western psychology methods, specifically one that's called exposure therapy. So good clinical EFT is helping guide a client, whether you're a life coach, therapist, psychologist, or what have you, guiding your client through a tapping sequence while the client is talking about some kind of emotional state that they would like to lessen the intensity of, or they're talking about a bothersome memory. Let's say you're doing coaching for peak performance. Tapping can increase peak performance by eliminating a bothersome memory, let's say, of a sports injury in the past. Or if a person has a clinical diagnosis, let's say like a clinical depression, EFT can be used to neutralize the emotional intensity of a particular bothersome memory that might be causing or at least exacerbating the clinical depression itself. So again, just in summation, I love EFT because it's one of my favorite ways of bridging all of the ancient wisdom of the Chinese culture, 5,000, some would even argue 10,000 years of history of treating people in this very different way than Western medicine has evolved, again, through the understanding of how energy works in the body, but combining it with the most modern technologies of Western psychology and blending them into, you know, if you're a therapist and you like attachment theory, then EFT works beautifully with attachment theory. If you're a therapist and you are trauma-informed, trauma-responsive care, EFT works beautifully with that. And the certification program at ACEP will guide you through step by step, not only how to use EFT, but also there are modules in the certification program that speak directly to attachment theory, trauma theory, narrative therapy, gestalt therapy. So whatever it is you're already using, this can be used as a way of reducing your clients' emotional intensities, eliminating blocks or barriers, diminishing limiting belief systems. For instance, if you use schema-based psychology, you can use this directly into the schema and be able to deconstruct those limiting belief systems. Or if you're trauma-informed, then it can be used as a trauma-informed method of care.
Energy psychology. What would you say, Michael, to people that say, it sounds too good to be true?
I was one of those in the early days. I actually entered into the work with a little bit of a critical eye, I will admit, because I'm a more science-based person. And so we'll say, of course, that there are dozens and dozens of research studies at this point that support our work. So I will start off with just some research, and then maybe we can look at your question from a couple of different angles. Right now, we know that there are multiple meta-studies that are finding efficacy. There was a study by Charles Figley out of the University of Florida that did a cross-comparison with CBT and other trauma-informed care systems, which included EFT. And he found a statistical difference, an increase in efficacy with EFT, and also EMDR. We'll give credit to the other trauma-informed systems too, right? EMDR, brain spotting, energy psychology, and EFT, as well as some other very specific somatic experiencing by Peter Levine. So all of those are being grouped together as what are being referred to by Bessel van der Kolk as the power therapies of the 21st century.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the Charles Figley study did a cross comparison and found almost twice the efficacy with the trauma-informed systems.
That's what I tell my clients is you don't know the updates of counseling in the 21st century. It's far different than it was in the 20th century. We're still taking the tools of the 20th century. We're still taking cognitive behavior therapy, client-centered therapy, everything that you learn in graduate school. And now we have this new but old system, which is tremendous for, it's the difference between taking a horse and buggy and the space shuttle.
It's true.
For efficacy and getting to the core, not just treating symptoms, but getting to the reason this started in the first place.
Yes, absolutely. So just to kind of wrap up a couple of the more Western-based evidences, I think it's important to point out that the American Psychological Association back in was it the year 2012, I believe now, approved energy psychology for continuing education units. So it's important to quickly say that that does not mean that the APA has approved energy psychology. That's a different sentence.
Yes.
But it is a very nice first step toward acknowledging that energy psychology has a place at the table along with the rest of the methodologies.
Amen on that.
What's also interesting is that the government list of evidence-based therapies on the SAMHSA website lists thought field therapy, TFT, which is EFT's predecessor, as an evidence-based therapy. And so there's the government saying, here's something that has legitimacy to it. And I promise you that that these very large, I almost want to use the word agencies, but it's bigger than that. It's SAMHSA and then the APA. Just simply by acknowledging and listing energy psychology, generally speaking, and then TFT as a subset of energy psychology is a significant way of acknowledging. And then eventually, of course, our job as the energy psychology community is to continue to do further research and continue to do our due diligence to provide evidence and efficacy of these modalities. And there are a number of very, very exciting research going on at different universities right now as we speak. And I'm looking forward to actually going to our conference here very shortly and learning what's happened in the last calendar year since the last time I was able to check in. So what we can also say is that there are literally thousands of anecdotal reports, which isn't science, but that's why I went with the science first. And all of those stories and testimonials and reports have been cataloged per problem, per diagnosis, per category, and listed. And it's from that original work in the late 90s, early 2000s, and this collection of those thousands of anecdotal reports from people all around the world, practitioners from all around the world contributed to that. That gives a sense that there's something special happening here. There's, you know what I mean? There's something very moving that there's that many people who are going out of their way to write their success stories and to out themselves, if you will, about the changes that they've experienced through EFT. Mm-hmm. So I balance out, you know, the two different kinds of ways that people experience evidence of the how, you know, is this too good to be true? There's some people who like that objective part, mm-hmm. and so we have that. Mm-hmm. There's some people who like the subjective, like, does it work and will it work for me? And we can say that the experience is that there are literally thousands and thousands of people who would say yes.
Agreed. You and I being two out of the thousands and thousands.
Right. Yeah, and also as therapists,
yes,
that we've been able to operate on a number of different presenting problems, a number of different presenting complaints, and we always get results.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and when I just use the word always, yeah, I've never walked away from a session and not been able to see some reduction in symptoms.
Yes.
And yeah. I'm not saying one session cures. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But to see some reduction in intensity as measured on a scale of 0 to 10 or a SUD scale, if mm-hmm. people are using that terminology, and a reduction of symptoms over time. One of the things that you were saying, Joan, is you know, the efficacy of time. Like, let's say that a usual course of treatment for depression or anxiety, let's say, is about 6 months, about 24 sessions, give or take. We've seen the same kind of reduction in symptoms in about half the time. Now, some people would say that's something to pay close attention to, mm-hmm. right? Because if you can get the same result, but you're getting it in less sessions, that's saving money, that's saving time, right? That's giving just purely business-wise from therapist to therapist. that's giving good word of mouth referrals back into your clinic, right, into your practice. Some people have said, well, if people are getting better that fast, how do you stay in business? I've actually had people ask me this question in trainings, and I say, well, just think about it. You would be the person that they're telling all of their friends to come see you because you're getting those kinds of results.
I know.
And I'll just say that's what happens to me in my community.
That's what happens to me too. Sometimes I'm so surprised at results from my clients. I always say, boy, do you work fast.
Yeah.
You're feeling better now. You don't have the same symptoms. And we just started to meet a couple of months ago. And look how you're feeling today. Look how the quality of your life has improved today. My schedule, thank you God and everybody else who's listening, I'm jammed. I'm absolutely jammed. If somebody wants to come in, it's like, okay, so I start at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, or okay, let's do a 7 o'clock instead of ending at 6 o'clock. Doing the best I can to fit everybody in. My practice has, oh my gosh, really increased. And this year, it's kind of funny because I just finished doing my taxes in the United States. I had to pay a lot of money to the IRS because I made so much more in 2016. So when my accountant told me, I went, oh, that's wonderful.
That's what we call a good problem to have.
Yeah, right.
Next year, you'll have more tax shelters, right?
Now that's okay, universe. I need more tax shelters. But absolutely, it only increased.
So I want to make sure that we're kind of covering some of the foundations here that people would be interested in. One of the things that I heard you say, Joan, is that there's this difference between an old paradigm and a new paradigm.
Yes.
And so I think it's also important if there are people who are listening to your show right now and they're therapists, they might want to know more about, is this too far out away from the bell curve, or is it something that I can use immediately in my practice? Is it worth, if, for instance, if they're thinking about doing the certification program, is it worth the investment of time and resources? And will it help me as the clinician, and will it help my clients, right? I mean, those are the really basic questions I think that people are going to have. And so what I would kind of come back to is that EFT and energy psychology falls very solidly inside all of the rubrics of trauma-informed and trauma-responsive care. So for those people who may or may not be familiar with the ACEs study, I think it's a good place to kind of start that part of the conversation. The ACEs study, if you haven't checked it out yet, is the Adverse Childhood Effects Study. And I believe has been going on since 1979. Kaiser Permanente was involved in it. It's a longevity study. And I'm going off my memory right now, so forgive me, but I think it's like 17,000 people were in the study altogether.
Wow.
And so the tracking on this is tracking the childhood history of growing up in homes that were had abuse, neglect, trauma, inner city, perhaps even combat zone, but kids growing up in it. Alcoholism, addiction, etc. You get the idea, right? And then tracking emotional health, mental health, and physical health across time. And there are direct correlations between what happened in childhood and tracking the longevity even of physical health diagnoses. Okay, and so you can Google it and find the SUD study, or excuse me, the ACEs study, and then get the rating, right, of an ACEs rating. And there's a direct correlation, fascinating graphics when you see the studies of when people are walking into our offices with their here and now complaints of a DSM diagnosis or of a physical diagnosis, and then we do the psychosocial history, there really is a science that says there's a direct correlation. Now, why is all that important? Because it informs how we do our case conceptualization. EFT can be used to stabilize the here and now environment and the reactions and the responses to what's going on in that person's life in the here and now. And that's kind of what we could call EFT light, or EFT on the surface. And that's good because it's an amazing and excellent tool that can be used to teach clients emotional downregulation. After that phase 1 of trauma-informed care, it can also be used in what we could call phase 2 of trauma-informed care, which would be to get into those childhood memories and have a very specific technique, a very specific technology, a very specific way of operating in order to shall we say, neutralize or even collapse the memories that are at the root or at the core of why people act the way they do as adults, or even reduce the symptomology of some physical complaints that present themselves. I'm being careful with my words. I'm not saying there's any miracle, cures or anything like that. I'm just saying it can reduce symptomology. It's been shown to be able to do that. And I'll take it. If someone's walking into my office and I ask them on a scale of 0 to 10 what their physical pain is in their lower back, and they report an 8 or a 9, and I have a technique that I can employ for 30 minutes, and I check back in on that SUDS rating and they say 4 or 5, I would say that is a very, very powerful session.
Wow. Yes. I
call it a win.
And I wonder if they would have gotten the same results with more traditional systems. I wonder if they would have gotten the same results as quickly without using tapping or another energy-based system. That's what's fascinating to me too, that we can go, the SUDS levels can drop. It is possible that the SUDS levels can drop so quickly.
It is. Yep, it is. It is. And so I wanted to start with the ACEs study.
Yes.
And kind of talk about how that connects into understanding people's psychological development over a lifetime, and how a technique like tapping, EFT, can fit into that. The next thing, because I mentioned about memories and memory reconsolidation. And again, if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with memory reconsolidation theory, I would heavily encourage you to Google it and find out more about that, because memory reconsolidation theory has everything to do with whether our clients are really getting better across time. And so this is the work of Stephen Porges, and again, giving credit where credit's due. And if I could just give a quick thumbnail sketch of what we're talking about. The understanding is that the kinds of interventions, and again, EFT and energy psychology are included in a number of different methods, including EMDR and brain spotting and some of the others that we've already discussed. So it's important to give credit to these kinds of intervention-based systems that are trauma-informed and trauma-responsive, that are operating in very specific memories when the client is ready to do so. And the work of Stephen Porges suggests that when one, well, have you ever heard, Joan, of the little saying that says, neurons that fire together wire together?
Oh, that's neat. I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a great little saying, and I explain it to my clients, and then everybody can walk out the door and remember that one, right? So that would be like the take-home message. Neurons that fire together, wire together. That's how memories are created. And so a memory is a certain environmental stimulus gets filed into the library of memories, into the brain. And every single time that there's another external stimulus that reminds, the library of memories about that pulls out that memory and then responds accordingly. So that's a lot of what PTSD is. Post-traumatic stress disorder is, this stimulus looks a lot like that other one. Here's how I respond.
Okay.
Right? And even to the extent of experiencing flashbacks or other kinds of memories or acting out in the present day as if, and we'll use a combat memory, as an example right now, as if I'm still in combat, or as if I have to survive, even though I'm already out of the military and I'm back into my civilian life. So memory reconsolidation theory says that this memory keeps on getting pulled out and acted out upon, and then refiled in the same way, and then pulled out, acted upon, refiled in the same way, etc. Telling the story or retelling the story over and over again in a talk therapy kind of way might be considered re-traumatizing from this point of view, because even the talk therapy is just pulling it out, re-experiencing it, and then refiling it. Does that make sense?
Perfectly.
So the work of Porges suggests, and we like his work because it explains, from somebody who's not in the energy world at all, but it explains why energy psychology and EFT works the way it does, is that we pull up the memory, we operate on it. Our version of operating on it is an imaginal exposure to the memory while applying the tapping on the acupressure points, reducing the intensity and engaging in emotional downregulation. So then, and here's what's amazing. Here's the magic. You ready? That memory was pulled up and was shifted around with cognitive reframing. The difference, again, would be that it's not the therapist that's initiating the cognitive reframes. It's the client who's experiencing it from the imaginal exposure. It's a different memory now, and it gets refiled back into the library of memories, the hippocampus, and it gets neurons that fire together, wire together. It gets refiled. So then from that point on, anytime it comes up, it is experienced as a different memory. So very layperson explanation of a very big book that Porges wrote. So I'm not doing it justice, but for the sake of our conversation, it's work that I would highly recommend. So the ACEs study I would recommend for therapists who are watching right now, and memory reconsolidation theory I very highly recommend.
Our conversation today is pure gold. You explain this so well. What is the difference between ACEP's certification course and others? Because you're the teacher that we're launching this. ACEP is launching this summer, including continuing education, including the fact that therapists will be learning from you, a licensed therapist.
Yes.
What's the difference?
Okay. Well, what I'll say is that ACEP's primary focus is on the helping professional. And so I think there are some other very excellent programs out there that focus on self-help, right? And so self-help is good. I teach a lot of self-help classes, a lot of self-development classes. I do different trainings to certify people as life coaches and so forth. ACEP's focus is on people who already are life coaches, already operating, already have their clientele, and then, of course, therapists, psychologists, and medical professionals. So our focus is really on giving people this tool that we're describing in today's talk and very specifically coaching people in how to integrate it immediately. And so our emphasis is going to be on how to integrate it with schema-based psychology, how to use it with DSM diagnoses. My particular background and specialty is also in addictions and addiction medicine. And so there are modules beyond the ones that just tell you how to operate it and how to use it in a trauma-informed way, kind of a deconstructionist model. But there are also modules on how do you use it with people who are experiencing clinical depression? How do you use it specifically with people who have generalized anxiety? How do you use it specifically with kids, teenagers, et cetera, eating disorders, addictions, smoking cessation? And so all of the different kinds of things. There's even a part where we talk about how you do it with couples counseling. Right.
Beautiful. Okay.
Right. And so we're building the bridges immediately into how do you learn the techniques and then how do you utilize the techniques.
Okay. And I can't say that I'm not biased about this because I'm also one of your students and I have also taken trainings with you. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there is not a more, oh no, let's back that up. ACEP has the most thorough program available.
Yes, well, I'm biased.
Okay, two biased people.
Right. Yeah, I've been with ACEP more than 10 years. This might be year 11 or 12, and I've gone to every conference, and I feel very blessed to have become the EFT trainer in the year 2010 and traveled across North America to more than 50 cities, training therapists and life coaches and other medical, allied medical professionals how to use EFT in their clinics and in their practices. And we did that for about 5 years. And then if we could talk a little bit about like the next version of it is, frankly, it's what we're doing right now. It's an acknowledgement that the wave of the 21st century is going to be virtual. And if you think about it too, Joan, it saves the cost for the student because it costs a lot of money to travel to a city, pay the hotel fare, pay the airfare, restaurant meals, etc., plus the cost of the course in order to take a 2-day workshop.
Yes.
This version, you save all of that money, you pay the cost of the course, and then see it in the comfort of your own home, just like you and I are right now. And then it's important to address the next question is how do I know as a student that I'm getting the same practice as I would if I were in a live workshop? And we've addressed that question by the same technology you and I are using right now, which is Zoom. So these are Zoom rooms. And so part of this certification program is going to be to take the modules in the comfort of your own home, and then you'll have your own consultant that you're meeting, just like you're seeing Joan and I right now, who's going to do group coaching. And we're keeping the numbers really small. There's only going to be 5 or 6 people per consultation session in the Zoom rooms. And then you'll be able to bring your personal cases to your consultant. You'll be able to get individualized coaching. They're going to have instructions so that you practice in the Zoom room, just like you're seeing right now. And then they'll be able to watch your operation of the technique, give real-time coaching. And I'm going to be honest. I think this program is better than the other one because of that part right there. This is me being transparent. I was teaching rooms. I think, Joan, you were in one that had 50 people in the room. So sure, I would be giving exercises for people to practice, but could I really watch all 25 dyads at once and give real-time coaching on how to improve? Not really. I wandered the room, and when somebody raised their hand, I went over to that person.
Yes.
But if you think about it, as soon as I went over to that one person, I wasn't paying attention to the other 24. This system, I think, is very unique in all of the certification systems in that it's the small group, and you'll have the practice, which means group of 6 means 3 dyads, and you can raise your hand in a Zoom room, and then the consultant can go right into coaching in real time. That's fantastic.
I can't wait. Even though I'm certified by ASAP's former program, I can't wait to take this program myself.
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, and all of the coaches are people who are advanced practitioners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Training healers in EFT. Oh.
Letting the light shine through and ripple through more and more people who feel empowered on how to operate, even with like the toughest cases that walk into our offices. Man, Joan, this, we do really, really good work. We do tough work. We have tough cases that come in the office. And I will say that EFT has assisted me in my own confidence of being able to know that how to move forward with some very specific traumas, discrete traumas, chronic trauma across time, and know and have the confidence in myself, but also have the confidence in the technology that I know I can walk my client through it and get to the other side, and that they will have a positive outcome.
Wow. No. Someone will call me up and say, I'm sure you've never heard of this before. And I'll say, try me.
I get those too.
I've been doing this for a while. Try me.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, well, it sounds fascinating. I'd really like to see what we can do together. So anytime somebody says, da 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 da, I'm really complicated, I'll think to myself, you think that's complicated? No, but I'll say, well, let's come in and see what we can do together.
Yeah.
And I'd say 9 times out of 10, there is definitely movement.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. With someone who actually knows how to operate the system. I do believe that there's a lot of people who can read a book on this topic, or even watch a couple of YouTube videos and get the tapping part down.
I always say the mechanics are easy. It's the
mechanics
art.
are easy. The mechanics I could teach in an hour.
Right?
Yeah, maybe even less.
Right.
But we'll say an hour real thoroughly. But you know that old joke about the plumber?
Yes.
Yeah, you know the one, right? The plumber comes in because there's a leak in the pipes, and it takes a little while, takes a look at it, and takes his hammer out, bangs the pipes in this one place, and then the leak stops. And he says, well, that'll be $100. And the person who owns the house says, $100? All you did was bang the pipes one time. How's that $100? And he says, it's a $1 for the place I banged, and $99 for knowing where to tap. So why a certification program? It's knowing where to tap. Yeah.
All right, everybody out there. This is the truth as Michael and I understand it and bring it to you. Yeah. Please consider this program. You will not be disappointed.
Yes, and go to the website.
Go to the website. Now, if anyone has any questions for you and they would like to contact you, where should they go? What is your website?
My website, I have one for the clinic I run. But let's see. How about we'll use michaeldemolina.com right now. It's not up as I speak right this moment, but we'll have a landing page really soon. Okay. And that'll be separate from the clinics that I have here in the state of Alaska. If you do want to email me, you can email me at michaeldemolina@gmail.com.
gmail.com. And then if anybody has any questions for me, I'm JoanKaylor.com is my site. and Joan Kaylor, hotmail.com. So there we go. Everything is electric.
It's virtual. It's a virtual world.
It's a virtual world, and we are electric.
But you know something? I just want to say that some people speak fairly negatively about the virtual world. But I got to tell you, I love it, Joan. And you want to know why? Because you and I have known each other for years, but we live at 4 time zones away from each other. But because of the virtual world, we're able to have conversations like this and deepen our friendship and do good work like the dialogue we just had. So thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I consider myself a counseling geek. Counseling? This.
Yeah.
It has been such an honor and so much fun. So everyone, thank you for watching. Now you've got all the websites. Now you've got all the contact information. So we look forward to meeting you. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye to our viewers. Namaste.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.